I'm Dakoda from Bowtied Media, and today I'm joined from another patch of forest across the continent is Glacier. Hello, thank you for joining me.
What's up, Glad to be here.
Let's address, I guess, the elephant in the room off the get-go. We are clearly not in the same place. I'm up here in Western Canada, and you are down there in somewhere in the Eastern U.S., doing this kind of virtual, in-person, not in-person sort of style of video to specifically talk about your brand new album, Here, Not Really There. And I will say your style of production and sound design has always included this kind of natural kind of tones and raw instrumentation, but it really seems like that organic style was like turned up to 11 on this album. Talk to me through what makes this album so special and why we're kind of sitting in a forest here talking about it.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like a lot of the inspiration has come from me sort of reflecting on my life, looking towards goals that I have, and there's a lot of self-reflection in it, and I spent a lot of time just on walks while I was writing this, and just being out in the woods, just being outside and just thinking about a lot of stuff. And I knew I wanted to have some sort of a bigger project, and it just felt right to make it feel as natural as I could. And I also kind of think that my music has a little bit of a progression over time where it's slowly started to get just a little bit more like this. And yeah, like you said, this is just like the project where it's like truly turned up to the max.
Yeah, that's fun. Do you feel like, you say natural progression, does this feel like an end game kind of form for you, or is this another step along the journey?
Yeah, I think it's just another step, because I think when you go back and you listen to my discography, there's a pretty clear progression of style, sound design. You can tell I am improving in some ways, stylistically changing.
Absolutely.
And I just think that the music itself is a representation of me and where I'm at in my life in that point. And yeah, this is just where I am right now. I think that in the future, I would like to make more music like this, but it doesn't have to be so similar to it. I'm down to always be changing, really.
Yeah. I like that, not locking yourself into anything.
Yeah.
And I know for the next little bit, over the course of our time together, we will definitely talk about the album a ton. But for now, I kind of want to go back to the beginning and talk about almost a decade ago, I think just over 9 years ago now, you released, I guess, your first real public project in the Slap EP. Back then in, what was it, 2005 or no, 2015? Was music at the time a passion project for you? Was it a side hustle, or were you like, oh, I want to be a musician and this is the start of that? Like this thing. How did your career start, really?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's kind of somewhere in between. Like, it was a hobby that I wanted to be serious. It was on the side, but I wasn't dedicating so much time to it that it was like definitive, yes, you are pursuing this. It was just something I was doing for fun. I think at the time of that EP was right before I started at an audio engineering school. I had known that I was wanting to do this a bit more seriously, and that was kind of like dipping my toes before I really pursued it a little bit more. I at the time, I think I knew kind of what I was doing, but at the same time, there's an obvious lack of knowledge, and you can definitely hear it when you compare it to newer stuff as well. But it's a cool time capsule, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you went for school for audio engineering, did you go with the intent of trying to be a musician, or was it more like I would love to do live production in some capacity, or what was that process like?
Yeah, it was definitely solely motivated because I just wanted to pursue music. You know, I think after writing that EP, I was like, yeah, I kind of love this. I went to college for biology, and it didn't work out, and I was spending all my time just working on music and focusing on not my degree and really slacking off. So I just knew that I wanted to do it. So the schooling was actually pretty great. It was a short, just hands-on in studio sort of dealio, and it was actually not that helpful as far as learning music, but more so learning more of the technical aspect. It was more production and working with bands and getting a lot of just audio engineering miscellaneous stuff under my belt. And I ended up actually working at that school for a few years, which
Oh, nice.
even further solidified some more audio engineering stuff because I was just around it every single day, which was great. I loved that.
Okay, as a specific audio engineer or your experience in that, do you have like a small tidbit or some kind of like hidden gem information you've used for years or something like that? That you're like, every person needs to know this or do this kind of thing?
Honestly, not really. I kind of think that it's the kind of thing that for me, you need to, when you're first starting out, discipline yourself, learn how people do things, how things work. But the only reason you need to know that is so that you can understand it and break all the rules and do whatever you want creatively. You know, you need to learn the framework so you know what's proper, and then learn how to just fucking break the shit out of everything. You know,
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that language.
We the river flow, don't you know? Quiet go. The tree out back for a snap. Can you hear me?
I've heard you talk a lot online about your love for video games, in particular the kind of Nintendo series of games like Pokemon or Legend of Zelda. Are there times where you intentionally feel like you're implementing some of the sounds? I feel like a lot of this album in particular, I hear snippets and tidbits from like a Legend of Zelda style soundtrack. Is that something that you feel like you're intentionally implementing, or is it something that has more of a kind of a passive impact on you?
Probably a little bit of both. There are definitely like some things that I go into where it is very intentional, like, oh, I want to make this sort of atmosphere that reminds me of a place. And then other times I might get finished with working on something. I'm like, oh, it really reminds me of this game or this emotion in the soundtrack. So it's probably just my subconscious working its way in. But yeah, I love game soundtracks, especially because they just capture an emotion, an atmosphere, sort of the essence of the place itself, and versus like a movie score, I feel like you get to experience it a bit differently when you're actually playing it.
True.
Which it just resonates with me quite a lot.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite game soundtrack?
For sure, yeah. I would say top soundtrack of all time is definitely Hyper Light Drifter. It is very just like mysterious, and there's so many moments where you're just like, it's like, it just blows me away. It's so crazy. But then at the same time, I love a lot of like other like cutesy areas and like a lot of the Zelda games and Mario games and stuff like that. But for sure, Hyper Light Drifter is definitely my top. I also really love like Sable, Journey, all kinds of stuff.
Oh, Journey's fantastic.
Yeah.
I personally, I'm a huge Pokemon nerd. Do you play much Pokemon in that sense?
I used to play a lot. I have really fallen off lately because I feel like Pokemon itself has kind of fallen off as a
hard agree.
Game Freak has fallen off, I should say specifically.
Yes, yeah.
But I still love them. It's just like I don't really play a lot of the newer ones, but I'll revisit the old ones. Yeah.
Very fair, very fair. I honestly just recently brought back my old Nintendo DS so that I could play like an old school game rather than playing the new ones, because I think the new ones kind of suck. So
yep. Hard agree.
Yeah. On a similar vein of sorts, since like day one of Glacier, you've kind of had this figure, icon, character, this like, I don't even know how to describe what he is of sorts.
Yeah.
Who is that character? Is that Glacier? Is that a representation of something else? What is this character of yours?
Yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people have been confused on because I haven't really like said anything or like a lot about what it is, I suppose. From the get-go, I knew I wanted some sort of a character. I don't know if I really had a reason. Maybe I don't like showing my face all that much. Even though over time I think I've gotten a bit more comfortable with it. But something to distinguish what my music is visually, like to a thing. But I think as time went on and I thought of what is this character, to me it kind of reminds me of myself, but it's not me. It's really just like, it's this being that's just on a journey. So similarly to how I would say like my music represents me throughout my life and different points in my life.
Okay.
This character is just kind of going through it, and he's just being represented at different points while he's just going through life and figuring it out, you know? A lot of people do think that
That's
he's an
cool.
alien. He's definitely not an alien.
Okay. Well, how would you describe him then?
I think of him more as like maybe it's a him. I don't really know. No name, no sort of specific personification
just
to it.
A figure.
Just a figure. I think of it more as like a sort of a spirit. I don't know if maybe he's in purgatory while he's just really reflecting on his life, or maybe he's living through a second life or something. But yeah, he's just kind of wandering around and figuring life out, you know.
I like that.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, a purgatory of just Glacier tunes doesn't sound too bad to me. But on top of that, is like to wrap up this part in particular, where does the like Glacier name come from? Because obviously it's a giant thing in the ocean, but where is the name Glacier? How did that come about?
It kind of from nothing. When I was just in like middle school, I made a Twitter account as a young lad, and I was like, what's a cool Twitter name? And I was like, I don't know, Glacier, I guess, whatever. And it just stuck with me. And I kind of formed my music around the fact that I had a social media handle off of that name. I kind of tell myself that.
Do you have the original Glacier?
I don't.
Like, do you have the @Glacier?
No. When I first started it, I used a capital I instead of an L. So really cheeky.
Yeah. Smart.
But I had to like ditch that because it was really hard for people to look that up. They're like, G-I, but it's really an L.
Yeah.
But they got a plane going over. But yeah, I tell myself that I stuck with it because I am just kind of enchanted by the outdoors and just the world itself. So I've some sort of large thing like that is so awe-inspiring just kind of fits the music, even though maybe not the whole specifically cold, icy vibe doesn't really fit. I just think this awe-inspiring giant thing is it just works. Yeah.
Okay, I'd love to move on to a little segment that I personally love doing, that I've had most guests do when they come on. It's called the Grid Challenge.
Yep.
The idea, I don't know if you've seen this before, but the idea that I'm going to give you technically don't have one in person. I can't hand you one because we're thousands of miles away, but I'll give you the rundown of the columns and rows and see if you can guess your own song. So you're going to be guessing your own songs from the stipulations I give you. You ready for it?
Yes.
Name a song that is on an album of yours that is over 5 minutes in length.
I feel like this is easy. A song on my album over 5 minutes. The longest song is probably I Hope You Follow Me, I think. Yeah.
Yes, that is 5:11 on that one. And then specifically here now, a Monster Cat song of yours that is over 5 minutes.
And I just have to pick one?
Which one do you want to use? Yeah, you pick one for this one.
I'll just use Birchview, yeah.
Okay, that one's, 5:44. And then now a Monster Cat song that is also a one-word title.
Oh, that's like every one.
Most of them, yes. Which one do you want to use?
I'll say Enough. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Classic.
And then finally, a song from your new album that is a one-word title.
Pining. Is that the only one?
Nice.
Yeah.
There's Enfold and Pining are your two on that one.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Fantastic. Well, way to go. Pretty easy. Pretty easy done there.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, back to this brand new album. There's clearly some very like intimate and emotional tracks, like the two we kind of just mentioned, or Pining, that deals with like missing loved ones or not really tackling the kind of uncertainty of life. Was there like an ultimate through line you were trying to get across on this album?
Yeah, it's I'd say the biggest focal point is definitely focusing on myself in the present. I tend to idolize things I've done in the past or versions of myself in the future where I think I'm going to get to this thing, and not that I'm unhappy right now, but things are just going to get that much better when I get there. And it's okay to think about that stuff every now and then, but to a healthy extent. I find myself really like weighing heavily on things in the past, and it just eats away at you. So just focusing on this version of myself right now, which is why the title kind of like plays on that, where like talking about the here and the there, like the future, the past, and not really being present in either of them, and just kind of sticking to here right now. and it also ties into specifically with my relationship with music as well. I tend to kind of use it as like a scapegoat, or like this big thing that I have to accomplish, but I'm so focused on it that it makes me put away spending time with all my friends, with seeing family. It's too easy for me to say like, oh, I want to go do this thing that I got invited to, but I also have this thing I'm working on. I could just do that, or really any moment that I'm not working on music, there's this back of my mind thing of it's telling me like, hey, you could definitely be a little more productive if you just did this. So yeah, it's really just like playing around with just like what I'm thinking a lot in the moment in these past few years.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. And on the production side of things, were there any new like production techniques or like new instruments you learned for this album?
I wouldn't say it's really like new techniques that I used, but more so new things that I just used more heavily. Probably the thing that I used the most is I would put sounds into a sampler that are key tracked, so they change pitch with the notes, and do like a resonant frequency for each note, so you can make a single note out of each thing on the keyboard out of random samples. And I would do a lot of like rain, like even like I would make sounds that sounded like a flute, but it's actually just a shaker that's resonating with each note. So I used that a lot because it creates a really interesting atmosphere of the source material while also having some nice actual musicality and notes to it. So that was super fun.
Totally.
Yeah, I love using that a lot. I also specifically tried to use just so much more piano. There's a big focus on piano for this record.
Yeah, I think that's quite evident from the get-go, and even the singles of how much more of a intentional use of piano I would say there was. So.
Yeah.
In particular, when talking about, because this is your debut album. You've had a couple EPs in the past, but this is a debut album. And those kind of, I feel like, have a tendency to be a daunting task for a lot of producers where they feel like they need to perfect every single second and moment of it. Did you find it difficult to write a debut album, or did it come pretty naturally?
It came very naturally. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny that I have my first album this late in my music career. I feel like I was kind of yearning for this bigger project where I just had a platform where I could say so much more and really make this big thing that I wanted to do. So it came actually very easily. As soon as I started the project, it just felt like songs were just like dropping left and right. Like, whoa, what am I going to do with all this awesome music I'm making? But yeah, everything I love that. It just worked so well. It came very naturally. Yeah, I don't think I really struggled with the theming. It just felt like it was the right moment to do it. So, yeah.
That's awesome. If you had to like boil down your entire like kind of process of this album into one like big life lesson of sorts when writing an album, what's something that you would say or something to yourself when you would write your next one of like something to latch on to?
Something that actually helped me a lot when I was starting this is like I wrote down a lot of key words that I thought just made sense with what I was thinking. And then I would just have like some sort of a reference to look to that would help me stylistically when I was looking at writing a new piece, or even just like chord progressions or whatever. Like I think I straight up just wrote keywords down. It was like it could be like mud, sticks, sticky, green, creeks, like forest. I just wanted this specifically to feel like you're just like a little dude in a forest walking around. So yeah, like sticking to those keywords, which is very evident when you listen to all the songs, really helped everything be very coherent. So yeah.
I love that. Is there one specific, or maybe even a couple moments in the album that you like gush over? You're like, oh, every time you go back and play, you're like, oh, this worked out perfectly. This was my like favorite part of the album. You got something like that?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I love the ending of Drifting Through. It feels like really huge and well worth the wait of the song. That song specifically is also very cool because the main bass in the drops is actually a rubber band that I recorded. So I'm very happy with that sound. And I also really like the ending of The Backyard. It's very interesting because there's these really giant chord. There's just this big moment, and then that big moment starts to gate with the vocals. So it creates this really interesting stuttering and contrast between like really loud and quiet at the same time, and yeah, it's just super fun and unique.
It's so okay, I'm still right here.
As the time of recording this right now, we are the day before the album eve. Is that what we want to call it, I guess?
Sure,
Capacity?
yeah.
For the dropping of it. Does it feel, when you release a new song or the days, weeks leading in, does it feel like there's some sort of anticipation, or have you worked on it for so long that it's like, I'm like done with it now, like I just want everyone to hear it?
I have been pretty ready for this to come out for a while now. I think these songs were like 100% completed maybe in November of last year.
Okay, wow.
So like at this point, that's like almost a year ago. And there was a point while working on these songs where they were pretty solid. They were like pretty much done. And they just kind of sat around for a while we figured out back end and logistics and artwork and, you know, what label are we going to work with and all this talk behind the scenes. And, you know, I'm just kind of sitting there like, this is done. I got to do all the not fun. It's still fun, but all the less
I know what you mean.
Fun work about it. So yeah, I don't really feel any sort of anticipation with it in the sense of like, oh, what are people going to think? I'm just like, I really just want people to finally listen to this because I've been listening to it for a really long time. Yeah. And I'm very proud of it. So I'm just excited to have everyone else be a part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you. I love the time that you came and we got to sit in equally different forests across our great continent in some capacity. So before we go, what's something you kind of want to just leave as a final tidbit for anyone watching or any anticipatory kind of thing towards the album or one final like, hoorah?
Yeah. I don't know. Just listen to the album, enjoy it if you want to. I would definitely say if you want to listen to the album in the truest form, just like go on a hike and just spend some time reflecting on yourself and just life and listen to it and just be with yourself and be present in the moment. Yeah. I
love that.
Yeah.
I did a mini hike to get up here, not gonna lie, and I was definitely sweating by the time I sat down for this conversation. And so I was playing the music as I was going up, and I was like, "Oh, this is actually a great pace to do it." So
nice.
Look at that.
Yeah.
So,
very cool.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was a real pleasure.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm very glad that we got to do this.